I still remember what he was wearing that day. The way his shirt clung to him after the rain, the wind pushing against us as if the universe itself was urging us apart. He stood there, still, as I spoke. My voice trembled, not from the cold, but from everything I didn't want to say. And when I finally stopped, when I finally asked him for something, anything, he looked straight into my eyes, and said nothing. That silence, it was the loudest goodbye I've ever heard. But before I tell you how it ended, let me take you back to the beginning. To a time when silence between us meant comfort, not distance. It started on the set of Turkish. They told us we had chemistry. From the very first scene. Even before we learned each other's real names properly. They said it was electric. And honestly, they were right. But it wasn't something we tried to create. It just happened. The way he looked at me, even when the cameras weren't rolling. The way I found myself glancing at him even when I wasn't supposed to. It was magnetic. Terrifying. And completely out of our control. We were professionals. But what we felt wasn't acting. In the beginning, we denied everything. To ourselves. To the press. To our friends. But late nights on set turned into long walks after wrap. Shared jokes turned into shared dreams. And eventually, the lines blurred so much, we stopped pretending there was a line at all. Can wasn't just a scene partner. He was the person I wanted to text when something made me laugh. He was the shoulder I wanted to lean on after a tough day. He became home. And for a while, it was beautiful. Private. Quiet. Ours. No one really knew what we were. But we did. Or at least, I thought we did. Things changed after the show ended. We went from seeing each other every day, to different projects, different cities, different countries. He started spending more time in Italy. I stayed in Istanbul. We said we'd make it work. That nothing could break what we had built. But distance is a funny thing. It doesn't kill love instantly. It slowly erodes the little things. The good morning messages become less frequent. The I miss you calls turn into unread texts. And the silence. It starts to fill the space love used to occupy. The first time I felt it, we were at an award show. He looked amazing, of course. He always did. But he felt far. Like he was there, but not with me. He smiled for the cameras, said the right things. But when he held my hand, it felt like he was thinking about something, or someone else. I asked him about it later. He shrugged. Said he was tired. That I was overthinking. Maybe I was. But the heart knows. And mine was already whispering things I didn't want to hear. There was a moment in Rome. We were having dinner after one of his events. It was just us. No fans, no cameras. Just Can and Demet. I wanted to talk. Not about work, not about projects. I wanted to talk about us. Where we were. Where we were going. If he still saw me in his future. But every time I opened my mouth, I hesitated. He was laughing at something on his phone. And I couldn't help but wonder, who was he texting? I didn't ask. I smiled. Pretended it didn't matter. But that night, I cried myself to sleep in the guest room. After that, things became colder. We still saw each other sometimes. Publicly. At events. We posed, smiled, gave the fans something to talk about. But behind the scenes? We were unraveling. He started avoiding questions about me in interviews. I started saying no comment. And the world began to speculate. Are they still together? Did they break up? Was it ever real? Asterisk. It was real. God, it was so real. But it was also falling apart, and neither of us had the courage to say it out loud. Until that final moment. We had agreed to meet. One last time. No cameras. No teens. Just us. I thought maybe we'd talk. Maybe we'd laugh. Maybe cry. Maybe we'd say goodbye properly. Instead, we stood there. On that quiet street in Bebek, rain falling lightly between us. I looked at him. He looked at me. And for a moment, just a moment, I saw everything. The late-night conversations. The laughter. The fights. The passion. The promises. The way he used to look at me like I was his whole world. And then, nothing. He didn't reach out. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't say, "I love you." He didn't say, "Goodbye." He just looked at me. His eyes were full of things he never said. And I waited. 1 second. 2. 10. And then I realized. That was it. That silence. That was his answer. I turned and walked away. And still, he said nothing. Days passed. Weeks. The press moved on. The fans speculated. Some blamed me. Some blamed him. But no one really knew what happened. Only we did. Or maybe, only I did. Because silence can mean many things. But to me, that day, it meant, it's over. I just don't have the strength to say it. People ask me if I still miss him. I do. Not every day. But some nights. When the city is quiet. When I hear a certain song. When I catch a glimpse of an old photo. I miss the boy who used to bring me coffee on set. Who used to hold my hand under the table. Who once said, "With you, I feel peace." I don't know where he is now. Not really. I see his pictures. I read the headlines. He's still beautiful. Still charming. Still can. But the version of him that loved me? I don't think he exists anymore. And maybe that's okay. Because sometimes, love isn't meant to last. Sometimes it's just meant to change you. And he changed me. He taught me that silence can speak. That not all endings come with words. That sometimes, the most powerful goodbye is the one you never hear. He looked straight into my eyes, and said nothing. But in that silence, I heard everything. Love, if it was a flame, ours burned quietly. No grand declarations. No fireworks. Just something warm, constant, and dangerously fragile. We existed in the spaces between scripts, in the pauses during filming, in the glances no one else noticed. Maybe that's why when the silence started growing louder, it hurt more than any scream. We were nearing the final episodes of Erkenci Kuss. Fans were obsessed. Canned him forever, they posted. Edits. Theories. Red carpet compilations. To the world, we were already a couple. But in private, something had started to shift. One night after filming, Ken looked at me with those same eyes that once made me forget where I was, and he asked, "When this ends, do we end too?" I froze. Because I had been asking myself the same thing for weeks. But hearing him say it made it real. "I don't know," I whispered. "Do we?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me. And that was the first silence I remember truly fearing. The series ended. The scripts were gone. The cameras stopped rolling. And we were no longer Sanam and Can. We were just us. And that should have been enough. We still saw each other at events. Still smiled for cameras. Still gave the world something to hold on to. But the closeness we had on set, it didn't follow us off screen. Not fully. And then came Italy. He got offers. A new agency. More exposure. Bigger things. I was proud of him. I really was. But deep down, a tiny voice whispered, "This distance, it will change everything." At first, we messaged every day. Good morning, my heart. I miss you. How was your shoot today? But then, one morning, there was no message. And that night, when I texted, he replied, "Sorry, busy day. I'll call tomorrow." But tomorrow came. And went. And the silence stayed. I told myself not to panic. He was just adjusting. He was tired. He still cared. Right? But the silences grew longer. One night, I posted a photo from a shoot in Istanbul. He didn't like it. Didn't comment. Didn't say a word. It seems childish now, caring about likes and comments. But when you're in love with someone who used to notice every detail, suddenly, the absence of a single emoji feels like a scream. I remember texting him, "Hey, everything okay?" He replied, "All good. Just been a crazy week. Short. Dry. Cold." And for the first time, I asked myself a question I wasn't ready to answer. Are you still mine? I didn't have the courage to ask it out loud. And he didn't give me any reason to believe I still was. I saw photos of him online. With models. With co-stars. With new people. The headlines started coming. New romance in Rome? Can Yaman spotted with mysterious brunette. Demet who? I laughed them off in interviews. Smiled. Shrugged. Said, "We're good friends." But I was lying. To the cameras. To myself. Because we hadn't spoken in days. And when I finally did call, he didn't answer. That night, I sat on my bed and scrolled through our old photos. Backstage selfies. Messy hair. Morning smiles. Him holding my hand under the table at a press junket. And I cried. Not because he was far. But because he was slowly disappearing. And I didn't know how to stop it. That's when I wrote him a message. A long one. About everything I felt. The distance. The silence. The fear. How I didn't want to lose us. But I never sent it. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. And then I pressed delete. Because deep down, I already knew. He was slipping away. It was an awards night. One of those glamorous, perfectly polished, utterly exhausting events. The kind where the red carpet stretches on forever, and the fake smiles stretch even further. I had been invited last minute. Ken was already scheduled to appear weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in nearly 2 months. I told myself it was fine. That I looked good. That I'd be professional. That we were okay. But I was lying to myself again. I arrived late. Paparazzi lights flashing like lightning, everyone shouting names. Mine. His. And then, there he was. Can. Tall. Effortless. Magnetic. And not alone. She was standing next to him. Brunette. Elegant. Someone I didn't recognize. And yet, I recognized everything in the way he looked at her. He leaned in close to speak to her, smiling in that way he used to smile at me, like the rest of the world didn't matter. And in that moment, something inside me collapsed. I froze. The cameras kept flashing. People around me kept moving. But I was still. Numb. A statue in the middle of chaos. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. My hands turned cold. I couldn't breathe. I told myself to walk away. To turn around. To pretend it didn't matter. But I didn't. I watched. I watched the man I once called mine stand beside someone else like I had never existed. He didn't see me at first. Or maybe he did and pretended not to. Either way, I slipped into the ballroom quietly, avoiding him like a ghost avoids the living. I sat through the event in a daze. I laughed when I was supposed to. Clapped when I was expected to. Smiled for cameras when they found me. But inside, I was shattering. After the show, I went outside for air. The city was loud, the night buzzing with life, but I felt utterly alone. I checked my phone. Nothing from him. Not even a "Hey, you here too?" I almost called him. Almost. But what would I have said? "I saw you. I miss you. Why does it feel like you don't miss me?" Instead, I sat on the steps behind the venue, heels off, dress bunched around me, trying not to cry. And then, I heard footsteps. It was him. He looked surprised to see me, like he had forgotten I existed, and was suddenly reminded by accident. Demet. Just hearing my name in his voice, it hurt more than anything. He sat next to me. We didn't speak for a while. I didn't look at him. I was afraid if I did, I'd fall apart completely. Finally, I asked, "Are you happy?" He was quiet. Too quiet. Then he nodded. And that was it. "No, how are you?" "No, I miss you." "No, I'm sorry." Just a nod. And silence. And that silence? It was louder than all the cameras in the world. The day we met for the last time is etched into my memory like a photograph I can never forget. It was a gray afternoon in Bebek. The rain had just stopped, leaving the air thick with that familiar scent of wet pavement and salt from the Bosphorus. I waited nervously outside the little cafe we used to visit, our secret spot when the cameras weren't watching. He arrived a few minutes late. His hair damp, his eyes tired but still sharp, like he was carrying a storm inside him. I wanted to say so many things. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg him to stay. But all that came out was a shaky breath and a quiet, "Can." He looked at me. Really looked at me. I searched his eyes for answers, for a spark of the man I loved, for any sign of hope. And then, he said nothing. No words of comfort. No excuses. No explanations. Just the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, to demand, to understand. Why? I finally managed to whisper, my voice cracking like a fragile glass breaking. Still, nothing. His eyes flickered with pain, regret, and something I could only call defeat. He lifted a hand slowly, hesitating, before brushing a wet strand of hair behind my ear, a tender gesture that felt like both a goodbye and a plea for forgiveness. I didn't pull away. But I didn't reach out either. Because some goodbyes don't need words. We stood there, suspended in time, two souls tangled in memories and silence. I wanted to hold on, to freeze the moment forever. But the truth was clear, he was already gone. Finally, he stepped back. With one last look, an ocean of emotions packed into a single glance, he turned. And walked away. Each step echoed like a hammer against my heart. I stood there long after his figure disappeared into the misty street, the silence around me roaring louder than any goodbye. That silence told me everything. It told me love isn't always loud and passionate. Sometimes, love is quiet. Painful. Full of things that can never be said. And in that silence, I lost him. But in that silence, I also found myself. After that day, everything changed. The silence that once shattered me slowly became a space where I could breathe, think, and finally feel myself again. I wasn't just Demet who loved Can. I was Demet who loved herself. It wasn't easy. Some nights I cried alone, replaying memories like a broken record. Other days, I pretended the world wasn't watching. But bit by bit, I started to heal. I focused on my work, my passions, and the people who truly cared. I traveled. I laughed again. I learned that happiness doesn't come from someone else's eyes, it comes from your own. I remembered the little girl I was before fame, before love, before heartbreak. And I promised her I'd never lose her again. Did I still think about him? Yes. Sometimes. But not with pain. With gratitude. Because he taught me how deep love can go. How silence can speak volumes. And how even the hardest endings can be beginnings. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see a woman stronger than ever. A woman who faced silence, and found her voice. And that's the story I want to share with you. Sometimes, the most powerful moment isn't what's said. It's what's felt. It's what's understood without words. He looked straight into my eyes, and said nothing. But in that silence, I found everything I needed to move forward.